What is going on, Trash Talkers? We're back with another episode for you. Today's video, we're going to be talking about the Indianapolis Colts and their 2021 season preview, including record predictions. All that and much more coming your way right now! Hey Trash Talkers, it's Mike here. Over 93% of you who view our show each and every day are not subscribed to the channel. If you could hit that red subscribe button, it would help us out tremendously, and it is completely free for you guys. If you want to stay up to date with our daily content, then click that bell icon and you will be notified every time we go live. Nick and I both really appreciate you subscribing to the channel, and we can't wait to keep making more daily content for you. All right, Nick, as we continue this series, we started talking about the AFC South, and now we're talking about the Indianapolis Colts specifically. Let's start off with their additions, starting off with quarterback Carson Wentz, defensive tackle Kwity Paye from the draft, offensive tackle Eric Fisher, and tackle Julian Davenport. Out of these, which do you think is the biggest addition this team made so far?
I usually like to go with the quarterback, but this time I'm going to go to the defensive side of the ball. Kwity Paye, to me, was a massive addition, a guy that should not have fallen as far as he did in the draft. To me, he is one of the most NFL-ready defensive players that we had coming out of college, and he's going to show up right away. Alongside DeForest Buckner, this guy is going to be perfect with stopping the run, getting off the edge, getting to the quarterback. He's going to be big right away. His presence is going to be felt very frequently. I think the Colts are going to rely heavily upon their defensive abilities and able to stop the opposing offense, and Kwity Paye is really going to offer a lot of value to this team this season.
I really like Kwity Paye coming out of the draft. I think he was an incredible talent, but none bigger than the quarterback position, right? You lose Phillip Rivers, you got to replace him with somebody. Who better than Carson Wentz, the guy who should have won MVP if it weren't for an injury in 2017 under the regime of the current head coach in Frank Reich. Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator in Philly during that time. So I believe reuniting these two is the biggest addition that this team could have had, and one that we all saw coming. We all saw Carson being moved because Philly wanted to move on with Jalen Hurts. They wanted to reset that rookie contract clock, and now Carson Wentz goes to Indianapolis. He gets a team that is very prepared for a Super Bowl run. They have to make it out of their division. They have to continue to work and be great like they were under Phillip Rivers. And I believe that Carson Wentz is ready to help this team take the next step. But with some of these additions do come some losses, so we got to take a look at those. Starting off with left tackle Anthony Castanzo, defensive tackle Denico Autry, quarterback Phillip Rivers, safety Tavon Wilson, and linebacker Anthony Walker. Nick, out of these losses, which is the biggest for you?
I think the most talked about subject for us this offseason has been the Anthony Castanzo sized hole that has been left on this offensive line, and they have not filled besides adding Eric Fisher. This is going to be a hole that is felt right away, as you got to figure out who's going to protect Carson Wentz's blind side while Eric Fisher gets ready and gets used to this offense. I think that Castanzo's loss is going to be massive. He was such a pillar, a 6'7", 300-pound athletic beast that this guy absolutely held down this side of the field for every quarterback that he had. I think that Carson Wentz, although he didn't get to know Castanzo, he's going to know that there's going to be a huge hole missing on that side because he'll still be running as much as he did in Philly. I think that this is going to be a big hole that is felt often throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge loss for them, and as much as I'd love to double down on that, I'm going to leave it there. I believe the biggest loss for them comes on the other side of the ball. Anthony Walker Jr., the linebacker. What an incredible athlete. This guy did absolutely everything on the stat sheet. Interceptions, fumble recoveries, sacks, tackles for loss, tackles, everything you could possibly ask for from a linebacker. He was insane. And if they didn't have Darius Leonard, Anthony Walker would have been exactly what Darius Leonard is, but he has been overshadowed by the bigger and stronger version of himself in Darius Leonard. I believe Anthony Walker is one of those rangy linebackers that is tall, lean, mean, and just an absolute tackling machine. I believe that he is one of those guys who you can really build as the middle piece of your defense and not have to worry about the leadership and the captainship that happens on that side of the ball. I believe that Anthony Walker's presence is going to be felt just permeating throughout this defense, and Darius Leonard's going to miss his running mate throughout the entire season. All right, that covers the additions and losses for the Indianapolis Colts. Let's take a look at their schedule and go through their record predictions. All right, taking a look at the schedule for the Indianapolis Colts, we start off with week 1 where the Seattle Seahawks come to town. And this is going to be an interesting matchup because the Seattle Seahawks have to travel halfway across the country, take on the Indianapolis Colts. And this is one of those things where you take a look at both of these teams and they have some great offenses. And the biggest question comes on the defensive side of the ball for the Seattle Seahawks. Do they have the firepower to keep Michael Pittman and all these other weapons that the Colts have under wraps? I just do not believe that is the case, and I believe the Colts come out with a huge victory against the Seahawks in week 1.
Moving into week 2, the Los Angeles Rams make their way to Indianapolis. They're the team that makes their way across the country this time. And although the Colts have made improvements, and they showed that in week 1, the Los Angeles Rams have made a ton of improvements themselves. This Rams offense is going to be one of the most high-powered offenses we've seen in a while. The Rams are going to have a very easy time handling themselves against the Colts secondary. The Colts edge rush is not going to be too much for this Rams offense. And we have to talk about Aaron Donald and his impact he's going to have on this Colts offensive line. He's especially going to target the left tackle, as the Anthony Castanzo sized hole is still there, and it's going to be the weaker side to target. I think that Aaron Donald is going to be in Carson Wentz's face often.
Then in week 3, the Indianapolis Colts hit the road for the first time this season, taking on the division rival Tennessee Titans. I believe that the additions of Julio Jones and obviously keeping A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry on this offense are going to absolutely light a spark under the Titans. And I believe that, if Derrick Henry can have a big day against anybody, it's going to be the Colts, right? I mean, he's done it for 3 out of the last 4 games that they've had. So I believe that while it won't be a 200-yard rushing game, I believe that he'll still have a big day. I give this one to the Tennessee Titans.
Then in week 4, the Indianapolis Colts are making their way to Miami, to South Beach, and this is going to be a very good matchup. 2 high-powered offenses going up against each other. The difference maker in this game is really going to come down to the Indianapolis Colts running game. With Marlon Mack fully healthy, I think this is going to be huge for Jonathan Taylor, as he's going to capitalize off of his late burst last season. This is going to be a lot for the Miami Dolphins defensive line to handle, a little too much if you ask me, and it's going to be the huge difference that the Colts need to get a big W in week 4.
Then in week 5, the Indianapolis Colts take on the Baltimore Ravens on Monday Night Football. This should be one of those great games that we get to witness, and I just believe that where the Colts are right now, I believe that the Baltimore Ravens are just going to be a little too dominant against the Indianapolis Colts. I believe that this Monday night showdown is going to be all Ravens early and often. Look for the Ravens to come out on top in week 5.
Then in week 6, the Houston Texans make their way to Indianapolis in a matchup that the Colts have been looking forward to for a while, because they get to face the Texans twice, and they know it's pretty much a bye week, as the Houston Texans don't have Deshaun Watson, they don't have Will Fuller, they don't have J.J. Watt. This is not the Texans that we've seen in the past. This is going to be a Houston Texans team that is scrapping to get at least a win this season, but it's definitely not going to be against the Colts. Colts take an easy victory in week 6.
Then in week 7, the Indianapolis Colts take on the San Francisco 49ers in Santa Clara. And I believe that the 49ers are going through a very interesting time where, do they stick with Jimmy Garoppolo? Is it Trey Lance? Who the hell is under center for the Niners? Can this defense hold up? Who's on the back end? Who's at wide receiver? The 49ers are just in flux this season. Look at the Indianapolis Colts. They have most of those answers already solidified. I take the team that has the assurances here. I take the Indianapolis Colts in week 7 over the 49ers.
Then in week 8, the Tennessee Titans make their way to Indianapolis this time, and they're facing off for the second time in the first 8 weeks of the season. Unbelievable, but the Colts want to get retribution for that first loss. They want to show just how good Carson Wentz is back in Frank Reich's system. They want to show just how good this rushing attack is and how they're comparable to Derrick Henry. This is going to be a big game for the Indianapolis Colts, and I think they're going to show just how good they are in Week 8, splitting the series with the Tennessee Titans this season.
And then in Week 9, the Indianapolis Colts have their second of 3 straight home games, this time on Thursday Night Football against the New York Jets. And I believe that the Indianapolis Colts are just too dominant, too strong on both sides of the ball to lose to Zach Wilson and the New York Jets. I believe that the Jets are still in their rebuild period. The back end of their defense is absolutely atrocious. They still have to figure out this offense with Mike LaFleur as the offensive coordinator, Robert Saleh going through some struggles as a head coach for the first time in his career. I look for the Indianapolis Colts to come out with the Thursday night victory in Week 9.
Moving into Week 10, we have a big matchup, big divisional matchup. The Jacksonville Jaguars head to Indianapolis for the first time, and it's the first look the Colts have at Trevor Lawrence and this completely overhauled Jacksonville Jaguars. This is going to be a big matchup. I think at the end of the day, this is going to be a lot of change that the Colts need to handle. Travis Etienne is a weapon that they have never handled before. He is more of the Alvin Kamara type, and he's going to be a big matchup for these lackluster linebackers outside of Darius Leonard, who's really going to be able to help against Travis Etienne. I think this is going to be the big X factor. Trevor Lawrence already has that chemistry. The offensive line for the Jaguars is going to be strong enough to hold up to help James Robinson have a very strong running game. To me, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to get a big striking victory over the Colts in Week 10.
Wow, what an absolute shocker in Week 10. And then after that butt whooping that they take at the hands of the Jacksonville Jaguars, they have to go on the road to cold, rainy Buffalo, New York, take on the Buffalo Bills in New Era Stadium, and take on this team in front of the Bills faithful, the Bills Mafia. And I just believe that the Bills are too strong for the Indianapolis Colts at this point. The Bills, they have Josh Allen. They have a running game now. They have a passing game now. They have everything that you could ask for on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, their biggest question mark comes as the cornerback number 2, but it really doesn't matter when you're facing off against these wide receivers that Indianapolis have, right? T.Y. Hilton, whose best days are well behind him. Michael Pittman Jr., who is your number 1. I believe that there's some work they can do on the offensive side of the ball with the wide receivers. I believe the Buffalo Bills are going to exploit that, and they are going to utilize that weakness against them. Bills come out on top Week 11.
Shield your eyes now, Indianapolis Colts fans, because in Week 12, it gets much harder for them to succeed as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers make their way to Lucas Oil Stadium. This is going to be a big matchup and a very tough matchup for the Colts. Tom Brady has faced off against the Colts many times before, and it's always ended poorly for the Indianapolis Colts. This isn't Peyton Manning. This is Carson Wentz, and he's going to struggle against this Buccaneers defense. It's one of the hardest pass rushes to get past, and with the Anthony Castanzo size toll right there, JPP, Shaq Barrett, these guys are going to work against this offensive line. Carson Wentz is going to have a tough time getting to his receivers in this one. The Bucs are going to take a big win in Week 12.
After 4 straight victories, they have 3 straight losses. The Indianapolis Colts currently sit at 6-6, and we go into Week 13 where the Colts face off against the vaunted Houston Texans. Only they're not so vaunted anymore, as Deshaun Watson will not be playing quarterback for this team. And I believe that the Indianapolis Colts received this game at the perfect time, right before their very late bye week. The Indianapolis Colts are going to take out all of their anger, all of their frustration, all of their dominance that they've been holding back on against the Houston Texans. This is going to be an absolute blowout. The Indianapolis Colts will win in Week 13.
Then in Week 14, the Indianapolis Colts finally get a bye week. It's been way too long, and they get to get ready for Week 15 as they host the New England Patriots, a team that they know very well, a team that has broken their hopes and dreams many times in the past in the playoffs, and the Colts want to show just how good they are, except when you look at the Patriots, they've added so many new weapons. It's going to be hard to scheme up against. The Colts are going to have their hands full, as the linebackers are really going to have to show up if they're going to win this game. The Patriots' running attack is like no other. They can run from every which way. They have new weapons, new tight ends that are going to be a lot for the Colts safeties to handle. I think the Patriots, at the end of the day, have a little too much to offer and are going to get the better of the Colts in Week 15.
And then in week 16, the Indianapolis Colts go on the road to Arizona, take on the Arizona Cardinals. And I actually believe that this Saturday game is going to throw a wrench in the plans of a lot of players. This is not their normal work schedule. This is not exactly how things usually go for them. You know, NFL players, they are creatures of habit. They have their rituals, they have their entire weeks planned out. This being a Saturday game is going to throw the Arizona Cardinals for a wrench, I believe. And I think that the Indianapolis Colts get a huge, absolutely dominant road victory over the Arizona Cardinals in week 16.
That's a massive win that puts them ever so closer to making the playoffs, and they have to continue this win streak moving into week 17, hosting the Raiders in their final home game of the season. They've got to do everything they can to stop Darren Waller and company. The Colts have the wide receivers to get past this Raiders secondary. They have the rushing attack to get past this Raiders defensive line. But do the Colts defense have what it takes to stop Derek Carr and company? I think it might be a little too much. I think the Raiders, with Darren Waller, Henry Ruggs, John Brown, these guys are going to be a lot of speed, a lot of size. It's going to be too much for these Colts secondary to handle, and the Raiders are going to get a very big victory over the Colts in Week 17.
Wow. Week 17 has the Indianapolis Colts on the brink of possibly making the playoffs, currently sitting at what could be the 8th seed, 7th seed, 9th seed, whatever. They're sitting at 8-8. They are at 500. And this is at the point where you have to say, are we in or are we out? And I believe the Indianapolis Colts are in. I believe that the Colts are going to take out all of their anger and frustration that they felt in week 10 when they were upset by the Jacksonville Jaguars. I believe that the Colts take it out on the Jaguars this week. Week 18 is coming up. All Indianapolis Colts on the road. Leave it to the Colts to win and set their record at 9-8.
Well, with a record of 9-8, it's a winning record. It looks great, but when you look back at last season, it's actually a downgrade. As last season, the Indianapolis Colts had 10 wins with Phillip Rivers. We expect that Carson Wentz should be better than Phillip Rivers at this point, and it's not looking great. I think Carson Wentz is going to be working through some chemistry issues with the offense. I believe that the offensive line is going to be working through the holes of Anthony Castanzo, and they're going to try to get back to what they once were. And to me, this Colts defense is really going to be the major story, as they're just not able to hold up their end of the bargain. They're going to be the ones that need to get fixed up in the secondary specifically. You need to fill the hole that Anthony Walker is leaving behind as well. There's going to be some holes that the Colts need to fill up this offseason, and they should have a very easy time to do it, as they're carrying over a lot of cap space from this previous season. They should be getting ready to make a big push next offseason and trying to make their way back into Super Bowl contention.
Yeah, I mean, the Indianapolis Colts, you talk about year over year, they're not where they were last year, but let me kind of put this into perspective. They are facing the NFC West, which is by far and away the best division in football. Okay, so they are facing the Rams, the Seahawks, the 49ers. That entire division is absolutely phenomenal. The Cardinals. And now, on top of that, they have a one-off game, their 17th game, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the defending Super Bowl champions. These are not games that they played last year. These are not teams that they faced last year. So going year over year, yeah, that's great and all, but at some point you're going to hit a roadblock, and that roadblock comes in the form of the NFC West and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And don't forget, the teams in their division got tougher. They got better. Julio Jones joined the Tennessee Titans. The Jacksonville Jaguars got Trevor Lawrence, made insane moves all offseason to get better and get this team right. The New England Patriots, who are on the back end of the schedule, made incredible moves to get so much better. I believe that the Colts are just a victim of coming into a schedule that is extremely difficult. When we're taking a look at this at the end of the season, if they don't make the playoffs, it's because of just how the schedule laid out for them, as far as they were not up to par with the teams that they had to face, and that's just simple as that. I believe that the Colts, they are continuing on their journey. Frank Reich is continuing to improve this team year over year, and you have to look for the little things for this team to improve. You can't just look at their record and say, oh, they're either better or they're worse, because not every season is the same, not every situation is the same, and I believe that they will have to rectify some issues. Yes, of course, but at this point, the Indianapolis Colts are sitting kind of right where they should be. I think they are regressing to the mean, if you will. All right, well, that's going to do it for now. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.